Ever feel like you're trying to trick fate? Or maybe even God? It's a classic move, and one we see play out in a big way with King Jeroboam. Let's dive into this wild story of disguise, prophecy, and the high cost of disobedience. So, Jeroboam, the first king of the northern kingdom of Israel, has a big problem. His son, Ahijah, is critically ill. Now, you'd think a king would turn to God, right? Well, Jeroboam has a complicated relationship with God. He's the guy who set up golden calves for people to worship, leading the entire nation away from the real deal. He knows he's messed up. So, instead of praying honestly, he comes up with a plan. He tells his wife, "Hey, disguise yourself. Put on some old clothes, change your voice, whatever you need to do so no one knows you're the queen. Then, go see the prophet Ahijah. This is the same prophet who once told Jeroboam he would become king." Jeroboam figures if he can fool the prophet, maybe he can get a good word from God without having to face the music for his own actions. So the queen puts on her disguise and travels to Shiloh to find Ahijah. There's just one tiny problem with this plan. You can't really hide from God. Ahijah is old and blind, but before the queen even walks through his door, God tells him exactly who is coming and what to say. The queen arrives, probably trying to sound like a commoner, and Ahijah doesn't miss a beat. He calls out, "Come in, wife of Jeroboam. Why are you pretending to be someone else? I have some bad news for you." Can you imagine the shock? Her cover is blown instantly. The disguise was completely useless. Ahijah then lays it all out. He reminds her how God raised Jeroboam up from nothing and gave him the kingdom. But instead of being grateful and obedient, Jeroboam turned his back on God. He made other gods, these golden calves, and provoked God's anger more than anyone before him. Because of this, God is bringing disaster on Jeroboam's house. The prophecy is chillingly specific. Ahijah says that every male in Jeroboam's family will be cut off. Those who die in the city will be eaten by dogs, and those who die in the country will be eaten by birds. It's a prophecy of complete and total annihilation for his dynasty. And then comes the most heartbreaking part, the answer to the question she came to ask. Ahijah tells her, "As for your son, as soon as you step back into your city, he will die. But there's a small, sad glimmer of mercy in it. Her son is the only one from Jeroboam's family who will be given a proper burial, because in him, God found something good. For everyone else, it's a grim, dishonorable end." Finally, Ahijah delivers a prophecy for the entire nation of Israel. Because of the idolatry Jeroboam led them into, God will uproot Israel from the good land he gave their ancestors and scatter them. They will be shaken like a reed in the water. This is a direct consequence of following a disobedient leader. The queen goes home, her heart heavy with this terrible news. And just as the prophet said, the moment she crosses the threshold of her house, her son dies. The prophecy begins to unfold immediately. Meanwhile, in the southern kingdom of Judah, things aren't much better. Rehoboam, Solomon's son, is king, and he's also leading his people down a dark path. They build high places, sacred stones, and Asherah poles on every high hill and under every spreading tree. The Bible even mentions the presence of male shrine prostitutes. Judah was doing all the detestable things the nations before them had done, provoking God's anger just like their northern neighbors. Because of their unfaithfulness, God allows Shishak, the king of Egypt, to come and attack Jerusalem. He carries of the treasures of the temple and the royal palace, including all the gold shields Solomon had made. Rehoboam, in a symbolic move, replaces these magnificent gold shields with bronze ones. It's a perfect picture of the kingdom's decline, trading the glorious and valuable for something common and cheap, all because they had abandoned God. The reigns of both Jeroboam and Rehoboam are marked by constant warfare between Israel and Judah. It's a sad state of affairs for a people who were meant to be one nation under God. Their leadership failures, rooted in idolatry and disobedience, created division, instability, and brought judgment upon everyone. Jeroboam reigns for 22 years, and his story ends with a dire warning hanging over his lineage. His attempt to deceive God through a disguise not only failed, but also resulted in a swift and devastating judgment. It's a powerful lesson. You can't hide from the consequences of your choices. Authenticity and obedience are what God desires, not clever tricks or half-hearted gestures. This whole saga shows us that leadership has consequences. Jeroboam's sin didn't just affect him. It set the entire nation on a course for disaster. It led to moral decline, political instability, and ultimately exile. God's promise of blessing was always tied to obedience. When the kings and the people chose idolatry, they chose the curse that came with it. But even in the midst of this harsh judgment, we see a flicker of God's character. God's discipline isn't random cruelty. It's a response to sin, a way of showing the severity of turning away from Him. It's a painful but necessary reflection of His holiness and His love for a people He wants to be in a right relationship with. The story of Jeroboam is a sobering reminder that our choices matter, and true wisdom is found not in disguise, but in humbly turning back to God. Thanks so much for watching with me today. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into these incredible biblical narratives. See you next time, and God bless.